Welcome back, Hive Mind. This is Shalzar with Hive Mind Gaming coming at you with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today, what we're going to talk about is the Doom Tower. Yep, the Void Tower. So, it's coming out, and odds are it's going to be toward the middle of December. So, probably right before, is my guess, right before the fusion comes out. So there'll be another fusion at Christmas time. My guess is the Doom Tower will come out probably a week before, if not at the exact same time. So anyway, with that being said, one of the things that was leaked about it, so you've got these secret rooms. There's 12 secret rooms. Now those secret rooms are going to have parameters that you're going to have to meet to be able to play that secret room or to fight or enter that secret room. One of those parameters is all rarities. So all uncommons, all rares, all epics. I doubt they'll do all, to be honest, I doubt they'll do all epics and legendaries. My guess it'll be all uncommon and all rares. So what I wanted to do today with this video is actually take a look at some of the better uncommons in the game to help you decide on what to build to play in that room, if you want to play in that room. And also might, some of these are actually pretty good. Once I went through all of the uncommons and cherry-picked all the ones that had really good abilities, some of them are actually pretty good. So let's get into it. So first we've got the Bannerlords. So there's several in the Bannerlords that actually have some pretty good abilities. So first off is Commander. Commander actually has, on her A1, she has a 15% chance of placing a stun debuff for one turn, which books up to a 25%, which isn't great, but it isn't bad either. But her A2 is what is the really good part about her. So it's on a 5-turn cooldown that books down to a 3-turn, and it heals the ally with the lowest HP by 40% of this champion's HP. So her base HP is 15k, so you can obviously with gear raise that up, and that means the heal becomes bigger. So whoever she heals for 40% of her HP, she completely fills the turn meter of that ally if that ally becomes fully healed by this ability. So every 3 turns she can heal someone, and if it fully heals them, then it completely fills that champion's turn meter, which is pretty good. All right, next we've got Squire. He's just got attacks one enemy on his A1, but it's based off of defense. And his A2 is a AoE, it attacks all enemies, has a 30% chance, which books up to a 40% chance, to place 25% decreased attack for 2 turns, and that can book down to a 3-turn cooldown. So, not great, but it is a utility that can definitely be used. And then we've got Fireblade, who on her A1 attacks one enemy and places a 25% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns if the attack is critical. So if you stack her with crit rate, and therefore always critting, then she's going to always place this decreased attack as long as you have accuracy. Her A2 is attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 30%, which books up to a 50% chance of placing a small poison, the 2.5 poison, for 2 turns, and that books down to a 3-turn cooldown. So all in all, she's not bad at all. And then lastly, for the Bannerlords, we have the Frontline Warrior, which is attacks one enemy based on defense, and then Ally Protect. Now this Ally Protect is on a 5-turn cooldown, books down to a 4-turn cooldown, but it also grants an extra turn. So that's important to note, because we're going to come up with there's another champ that does Ally Protect. That's uncommon, and his cooldown's way lower, but he doesn't get the extra turn. So that's something to definitely think about, is ally protect for 2 turns plus the extra turn. All right, next we have the High Elves. So there's a couple in the High Elves. The first is Aristocrat. For A1, attacks 1 enemy, has a 25% chance, which books up to a 35% chance of placing a 50% heal reduction debuff for 2 turns. And then her A2 is attacks 1 enemy 2 times, has a 50% chance of placing a 15% weaken debuff for 1 turn. And that's on a 4-turn cooldown, but books down to a 3-turn. So again, it's not the greatest, but it is a utility that is needed in most fights. So keep that in mind. We don't know what's going to be in those side rooms, assuming it's going to be the same as the rest of the Doom Tower, which is going to be 2 waves, and then the 3rd wave is a boss. Weekend might be something we want to look at. All right, next is going to be the Elf Guard. This is one of my favorites out of all of them. So far, we've got the attacks 1 enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a 25% decreased attack debuff on her A1. And her A2 attacks 1 enemy and decreases the turn meter by 50%. Now that's on a 3-turn cooldown that books down to a 1-turn cooldown. So accuracy and speed, I think, are going to be the 2. And her speed's not great, but it's not horrible either. I mean, she's good. She's absolutely good. If you can get her speed fast enough and her accuracy high enough, she can do some work. She can definitely do some work. All right, next we have the Sacred Order. Now, this is a deep faction. This has got a lot of champs, but there's 4 in the uncommons that are noteworthy. One is the Battle Sister on her A1. She's got attacks 1 enemy, decreases turn meter by 10% if this attack is critical. So obviously we'll want to stack her with high crit. And her speed is great, 101 for an uncommon. And then her A2 is attacks 1 enemy, has a 15% chance of removing 1 random buff from the target. This attack is always critical. It's a 15% chance that books up to a 25% chance on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3-turn cooldown. So I really like Battle Sister. She's pretty good. I mean, it's only a 25% chance, but it is a buff removal, a buff stripper, which is very rare for uncommon. So this might be a champ to definitely keep an eye on. All right, next we've got the Outlaw Monk. He's pretty basic, pretty straightforward. His A1 is attacks 1 enemy, has a 10% chance of granting an extra turn. So not bad, and that books up to 25% chance. And then his A2 is on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to 3 turns. And it just straight up places 2 big poisons, the 5% poisons, for 2 turns. So as long as you've got accuracy, you're going to do that. So there's no chance at it. So really good for bosses for sure. Then next we've got Militia. So Militia on his A1, and again, speed, fantastic. His A1 is attacks 1 enemy. If the target has less than 30% HP, this attack is always critical. So pretty good. And then his A2 is attacks 1 enemy, has a 50% chance, which books up to 60% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. So I believe this is the only champ that does the big decreased defense as an uncommon. It's on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3. So definitely worthwhile to take a look at. Next we have Armiger. I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Armiger is, but his A1 is attacks 1 enemy, decreases the turn meter by 30% if the attack is critical. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. And then his A2 attacks 1 enemy, damage inflicted is proportional to defense and increases according to the enemy max HP. Enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. So that's on a 3-turn cooldown, books down to a 2. So I'm pretty sure everybody knows who Armiger is, because I believe every content creator has done a video on him. So yeah, pretty good, pretty good. All right, let's move on. All right, next we've got the Barbarians. So the Barbarians have quite a few here. So the first one we're going to take a look at is Pit Fighter. Now, Pit Fighter's A1 is going to be attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a critical hit. So yeah, that's not horrible. But his A2 is on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3, and it attacks one enemy, decreases the target's turn meter by 50%. So again, another one of those, it just happens as long as you've got the accuracy. So really good. It's not on a 2-turn cooldown like the other one does, but still pretty good and worth taking a look at, because this isn't bad either to help with your crit rate. And then his brother from another mother, Outlander, attacks one enemy 2 times, and then on his A2's on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3, attacks all enemies, so it's an AoE, has a 50% chance that books up to a 70% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 30%. So a 70% chance to AoE decrease turn meter by 30%. So, I mean, pretty solid, pretty solid. And then we've got Shield Guard, which has great base defense compared to most uncommons. His speed not so good, but his base defense is great. So his A1 is attacks one enemy, has a 30% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns, and that books up to 50% chance. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense. All right, his A2 is on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to 2 turns, and it attacks all enemy, fills this champion's turn meter by 20% on each critical hit. So if he's set to crit, then he's doing an AoE attack. He's going to be doing some damage, and which means he's going to be getting 20% on each hit. So that's pretty good. So he hits five enemies. That's pretty much filling his turn meter. So pretty strong. And then he's got a buff or debuff stripper or cleanse. Every turn he removes 1 debuff from himself. And yeah, pretty strong. Pretty strong. And then we've got Crusher, who is A1 is attacks one enemy, has a 25%, which books up to a 35% chance of placing a 25% decreased attack debuff. And our A2 is attacks one enemy, places a counter attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. So it's a 4-turn cooldown, books down to a 3-turn. So she can definitely do some work on that. So is Zephyr. This is probably one of my favorite champs out of all of them. She's got great defense, great speed. I mean, just solid stats. Her A1 is attacks all enemies, so it's a AoE A1. Has a 15% chance, which books up 25% chance of increasing the cooldown of a random skill on each target by 1 turn. So basically puts everything on cooldown for 1 turn. And then her A2 is on a 5-turn cooldown that books down to 4, places a 7.5% continuous heal buff on all allies for 2 turns. So, I mean, just a solid champ. She's definitely going in whatever team I build for the uncommons. So the Ogren tribes has one champ that's worth mentioning. It's Hungerer. So basically, he's got an A1 that attacks one enemy, has a 10% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn, and then his A2 places a shield buff on all allies equal to 10% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. So it's a 4-turn cooldown, books down to 3 turns. So definitely worth mentioning there. Next we have the Lizardmen. Lizardmen have one champ worth mentioning. Has probably the highest attack out of all the other uncommons that we're going to take a look at today. His A1 is just attacks one enemy 3 times, so it's going to hit pretty hard. And then his A2 is attacks one enemy and removes 2 random buffs from the target. It's on a 4-turn cooldown. The book's down to a 3. So he's definitely going to be a buff stripper. So, I mean, might want to keep an eye on him. We don't know what's going to be in the Doom Tower, so we don't know what the room is going to look like, but this might be someone that we're going to put on our team. So next we've got the Orcs. The Orcs have one champ worth mentioning. It is War Chanter. His A1 is attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance of applying a stun debuff for 1 turn. This attack is based on HP. His A2, which is kind of confusing why it's based on attack, but this attack is on a 4-turn cooldown that books down to a 3, but it attacks all enemies, has a 25% chance of placing a 25% decreased attack debuff for 1 turn. And now that does book up to a 40% chance. And then also has a 25%, booked up to 40, of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. So this is an AoE decreased attack and AoE provoke. So this is a great ability. I wish it was more than just a 40% chance, but still pretty good ability. Next we have the Demonspawn. Demonspawn has one worth mentioning here. It's Pitker. And he's got A1 that is attacks one enemy, has a 25% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff that books up to a 30% chance. And then his A2 is an AoE. It attacks all enemies, has a 25%, which books up to 35% chance of placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn. So again, another AoE provoker. So I mean, anything that can CC your waves is going to be something you're going to want. So AoE provoke, AoE sleep, anything like that is always good. All right, last but not least, we've got the Knight Revenants, who has probably is the best ally protect in the uncommons, which is going to be Admonitor. All right, so his A1 is attacks one enemy, places a shield buff on this champion for 1 turn equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. Now, my only issue is that it's attack based. It should be HP based. That's my only gripe, because he is a HP champ. All right, his A2 though, this is the killer one, is a place a 50% ally protect buff on a target ally for 2 turns, and it's a 4-turn cooldown that books down to 2 turns. So, I mean, he's pretty solid. Long as you can get his stats where they need to be from his gear. I mean, yeah, he's I can't wait to try him out and see what he can do. But that's pretty much it, guys. What I looked for is champs that had ally protect, any kind of CC or AoE CC, or any kind of AoE abilities at all, for that matter, that had some kind of utility with them. And then on top of that, I looked for pretty good stats, and I looked for anything with turn meter reduction. There are other champs that have turn meter reduction and have those abilities I mentioned. These were just some of the best of those champs. So if there's any others that I've missed, or you think, Shalazar, you're crazy, this guy is 10 times better, let me know in the comments. I mean, it could only help. Throw them in the comments. Let us all take a look at them. It could only help. But that's it for this video. If you liked it and you want to see more, hit the like and join the Hive by hitting the subscribe button, and we'll see you soon. Bye.